I've been very happily married for 24 years. We have a 22-year-old son Jackson, who recently had to move in with us with his wife Amanda. Now I don't like Amanda, but I told him it's his life and I'm not going to keep commenting as long as he knows I do not like her. In general, I think she is rude and overly political, but she's been a decent houseguest, and I like having Jackson around. I've always gotten the impression that Amanda has an issue with my lifestyle. I've been a housewife, stay-at-home mom since I got married. I really don't care what other people do, but work never appealed to me and I married a man who is a good provider. I love my husband and I'm happy to play the doting housewife role. He's a lawyer and works long hours, so when he comes home, I like to make him a drink, and every night I take his shoes off. This seems to really freak Amanda out and I don't know if it is the kneeling in front of him or the physical act, but I have noticed her scoffing at it. I don't care. She can scoff. I have an easy privileged life because of him and it's something I like to do to help him relax. Last night when I did it, Amanda asked if I thought I was setting a good example for my 16-year-old daughter. I said yes, I hope my daughter grows up to be a good partner. Amanda asked why it's never the other way around, and I asked if she was trying to make some sort of statement. Amanda said it's made her uncomfortable for a while and she couldn't bite her tongue anymore. I told her it's alright if she's uncomfortable, but ultimately, I get to be comfortable in my own house. My husband said he'd be uncomfortable too, living rent-free in someone else's house. Now Jackson is angry with both of us, but I'm not sure if it's valid. He's never had a good relationship with his dad, but I think we could have said a lot worse and that he needs to talk to his wife about basic manners. Everyone's the idiot here. You all were being rude. I 100% guarantee your mutual dislike of each other is pretty evident and making everyone miserable. From now on, you need to pull your son aside if his wife is bothering you and have him handle it. If you're bothering her, she needs to tell him and he can mediate with you. Everyone's the idiot here. I would be as creeped out as Amanda, but she should have held her tongue. You're also the idiot because you for some reason felt it was important that your son know you don't like his wife. The overly political part made me laugh. I'm guessing you just don't like hearing about politics at all because yours aren't very good and you don't know how to defend them. Sounds like you just don't approve of outspoken, opinionated women. You are the idiot. A lot of people closing their eyes really hard to how incredibly terrible this woman and his husband are. The comments from this woman make it clear. The son hates his father because he always made him feel like a failure if he isn't like him while his little princess can do whatever. Your Dill sounds like a great woman. I would like to see your reaction if every afternoon your son went with some toast to take the shoes off your daughter's feet after a day of working. I just started college as a freshman at an art school and they gave us the option to join dorms that had our interests and find people to live with who are like us. Our dorm is like an apartment, with 2 rooms that 2 people share. The rooms are a bit small but the living room is a big empty space with a couch and a sad little table. Me and 2 other girls got put into this dorm for gamers and then we had a guy as our 4th, so they had to switch us for this last girl very quickly. She's nothing like us, which wouldn't be an issue if she wasn't how she is. The first issue that I had with her was the fact that she had the heat on in the dorm, but she got a heater for herself and that got worked out. The school has a wall in each dorm that they specifically let us draw on. It's strange but I like it. The 3 of us are illustration majors while this girl is a photography major. We started drawing on our wall and this girl made a fit about it, saying how we didn't ask if she'd be okay with it. She had a meeting with us where she complained that we made the living room a gaming room because my roommate brought her monitor out and plugged in my Switch and we played Super Smash Bros. One night. It was super fun for me. This girl has had friends over but complains when I have mine over, and I heard her talking to her friends about us. I have a class with one of her friends and he just kind of gives me weird looks the whole time. When I and my roommate were walking, her friends were sitting on a bench talking and when we walked by they all stopped talking and gave us weird looks again. She's vegan, and yesterday sent a long message about how when we make meat we need to clean extremely well for her in the kitchen and stuff, which I understand, but it was just so annoying how she wrote it. Well, last night I bought a fluffy black rug for the living room in our dorm. I thought it would look nice because of the big empty space. This girl went off. She said black is ugly and hides dirt, and I should have consulted everyone when getting a rug. I got this rug because I and the 2 other roommates went to Target and she didn't want to come with us, and when we saw rugs we thought it would be cool to get one for the living room. When I was out, I picked one up with everyone's happiness in mind. I told her nobody consulted me over the dish soap and left. That was probably a bad thing to say, but I was mad and sad. She sent me a long text this morning about how I'm nasty for the soap and the black rug and immature and all these things. I'm just hurt honestly, but maybe I'm an idiot and she's reasonable. Update: I walked into the living room yesterday to the rug rolled up in a ball, so I just decided to put it in a corner as I didn't want to cause more drama. I sent her a message apologizing and asking if we could talk like adults, and she's been blatantly ignoring me and being very friendly in our roommate group chat as well as to the others in general. It's hard to just let this go as it makes me feel like trash. I genuinely miss living alone. I agree that the girl could be a problem, but as someone who's had a roommate who made decorating decisions for common areas without me, I get how she could be bothered by that. I think roommates should work together more on that. Going off and saying black is ugly and you need to clean the kitchen really well when you cook meat, which I don't get, is unnecessary and rude as hell. Everyone's the idiot here. This girl is too controlling, but you should have talked about getting a rug before you bought one, asking if she had any preferences. You are all being too dramatic. Sit down with all roommates and make a list of dorm rules for your shared space. Vote on the rules. The soap thing was strange though. Everyone's the idiot here. It sounds to me like she feels very isolated and excluded, and doesn't know how to cope with 3 roommates who all know each other and do things without her. She's not handling things in an appropriate or constructive manner, but neither are you really. You guys really need to have a sit down, maybe with your roommate, and set up some ground rules and boundaries. It's not an unfixable problem, but if you both keep acting the way you are, it will only get worse, not better. My friend, we'll call her Bridget, is one of those not like other girls people. She makes those posts on Facebook, talks about it, etc. It can get a bit annoying, but the biggest issue I have with it is that she has no filter. Now, I'm all for speaking your mind because of free speech and all of that. But there are times when you need to have a filter. She's the type to point out when things are awkward between 2 people, but they're pretending to be civil for the sake of the group and just get through this outing before they don't have to see each other again. Doesn't happen often, but it's happened a couple of times when people have had an argument or don't like each other, and then things are even more awkward. If someone is on their phone a bit, she'll wave her hand in front of their face and say hey there and then call them on it. If they have a fashion sense that's odd to her, she'll make fun of them, even if they ask her to stop. She'll also tell you really random, graphic stories about her past, the same ones over and over. It's sad the first time, but your anecdote should not be my house burned down when I was 11 and my uncles died 2 days apart, plus I think they haunt me. The uncles didn't die related to the fire, they died of terrible diseases, and these are tragic stories, and I'm sorry they happened. By the way, I'm not trying to make light of it, it makes people feel awkward, which you guess. She calls them on and laughs about it. If you call her out on any of this, I have no filter. A lot of our friends don't like this, but a bulk of them, including myself for a bit until she did this with me for way too long about the clothes, chalk it up to that's just Bridget. The other night, we were all hanging out and one of the guys had brought his new girlfriend. We were all talking about fairly light, funny topics. Suddenly, Bridget brings up her uncles and started talking about their sickness, in excruciating detail. I can tell that the new girlfriend was getting pretty weirded out, and I told her, hey, maybe we can talk about the time they took you fishing. That's a funny one. But no, she continued until she was done. Then the room got quiet, as it always does after she tells this horrible, awful story about 2 men dying of cancer, and she looks around, bursts into laughter, and goes, well, now none of you have anything to say. Our friend's new girl looks humiliated and I just feel so bad for her. I say, Bridget, you need to cut this out. If you keep this up, people are going to stop inviting you to hang out with us. No one likes the way you talk to them. We've told you in the past. She looked incredibly hurt and I said sorry, I don't have a filter. Apparently, Bridget is still incredibly hurt and thinks I'm a fool. I do feel a bit bad, but at the same time, I am just sick of how she treats us as a group. Not the idiot, she needs to be pushed from the group since she doesn't care for your norms. Nobody should hang out with people who are this disrespectful of others, especially since you've already asked. I'm sure she's one of those girls who quote, if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. Take her advice. Not the idiot. Having no filter is no excuse to be rude. It's one thing not to pick up on social cues and to say and do awkward things not realizing they might not be appropriate. But if someone talks to you about how something is over the line and you continue to do it, you are the idiot. She kind of sounds like she does it for attention, to be honest. Not the idiot, but Bridget definitely is. The whole no filter thing is just an excuse to act rude to people and try to deflect any repercussions. Emo, you're on the right track calling out this sort of toxic behavior. The fact she claims to have no filter means she knows what she's saying or doing is socially unacceptable, but is doing it anyway for the attention it generates her. So basic background is I'm 42, have 2 kids age 14 and 12, and signed divorce papers in April after almost 2 years of it being an addict trying to get my fair share from him. The details of why are not important, but I'm angry, embarrassed, lost, and sad at any given moment of the day. A lot of this has to do with feeling like I've been replaced by a 23-year-old surfing instructor who is everything I'm not. My husband and kids claim that she is just his friend and helping him learn his lifelong desire to surf, but Jesus Christ, give me a break. My husband has primary custody because he had better lawyers who were able to manipulate some minor missteps on my part into the court seeing them as a huge deal. So this past weekend I picked up the kids and said we were going to visit my parents. They said they would rather use their season passes to Sea World since they spent all weekend with my parents, Aunt Stacy, and Uncle Brian, my brother and sister who I didn't even know were in town. I was like, your dad took you? They said yes, that my parents had invited him over to see everyone. I was devastated because while I don't get along with my brother and sister, and my mom, they let my ex-husband know they were coming and not me. I can't even let that sink in without tears forming. I sort of jested that, oh, and let me guess, Ms. Surf Instructor was there too? My daughter said, well, actually we all went to her house on Ocean Beach because she gave Stacy and Brian lessons after hours. That included my mom and dad. I was so devastated I took the kids back home and just went home and cried for an hour. When I was done, I sent a furious email to my entire family how inappropriate they all had been, and then not only hanging out with my ex for an entire weekend, but his little chippy as well as a massive slap in the face, and the fact they didn't even tell they were in town, let alone invite me, makes me feel so alone. My mom was the only one to respond, and she basically said, yes, it was rude we didn't tell you Stacy and Brian were here and we shouldn't have done that. But we didn't divorce Bradley, and we still see him as a son. This email, along with your behavior over the last 5 years, should really give you insight into why we might not want you at family events. In so many words, she called me an idiot for sending the email. Was I? You are the idiot. From the sound of this post and your comments, you cheated more than once, your husband didn't forgive you, and instead of taking any responsibility you expect everyone to cater to you instead of moving on. And if your ex has primary custody, I have to wonder if there's more than the cheating going on. You don't get along with your family, didn't bother to make your kids a priority even now, get some help. You are the idiot, sorry, but your family is right. Your jealousy and hurt over his new girlfriend is irrelevant here. Your family is not obligated to take sides in a divorce. What matters is that your children still have a good relationship with the family, and that's great. Since you don't get along with your brother, how else will your kids get to see the many family members you don't get along with if their dad doesn't take them? You are the idiot. Your primary concern should be your kids. They didn't send a relationship up in flames, you did, and if they get happiness by hanging out with their family in that way, then you should let it happen. You can be bothered by it, but trying to punish them and prevent similar things from happening again is unfair. I don't know what your family is like, what your ex is like, if there is more context or whatever, but inferring more context doesn't put you in a good light, but the kids are innocent in this and you are affecting their lives. I'm 23, the youngest in my family with 2 older sisters, A, 27, and M, 26. In general, I've always felt my sisters were raised differently than me. They're only a year and 10 months apart, so they were only 1 grade apart in school and much closer than they were with me growing up. They got to do all the same activities together, hung out with the same friend groups, and got to travel together once they were both in college. However, I was just the little sister that they didn't want around growing up. For instance, I was literally kicked out of the house during M's 16th birthday because I was still in middle school and they thought it'd be weird if I was there at the party, still had to clean up their mess when the party was over. Anyway, My sisters got to do a lot of cool activities that I didn't get to do when I was growing up. They got to do ice skating, horseback riding lessons, all these cool summer camps, etc. Growing up, all I did was sit at their lessons and wait for them to be over. The only activity I had was tennis for a year and a half before my parents canceled it. When my sisters left for college, my parents kind of checked out and didn't really care I was still in high school. I was pretty much just doing everything on my own. When they got older, my dad bought three cars, over the course of 5 years, and my mom bought Em a car. When I was old enough to drive, my parents said they didn't have enough money to buy me a car, so I had to finance my first car. My parents even helped them out with rent during college, car insurance, and any other expense. However, I have been pretty much supporting myself since I was 17. Today, my sisters are both married with kids. A has 2 kids and M has 1. My mom looks after all the kids while my sisters are working. Meanwhile, I'm in grad school very far away from my family. Anyway, my mom has been complaining about how she can't handle watching 3 kids under the age of 2 at the same time and has been bugging me to quit school to come to help out watching the kids, which freaked me out because it feels like it's just me revolving my life around my sisters again. She was also pointing out how I has saved up enough money to buy a house, which they don't see me doing at her age because I haven't been saving as much as her. A was living at home until 3 months ago and didn't pay for anything. That's when I pretty much snapped and told her that maybe if they treated me equally as them financially, then perhaps I'd be buying a house at 27 as well. She started going on about how it was difficult raising 3 kids, and I told her that she shouldn't have 3 kids if she couldn't handle it and treat all 3 equally. My mom got really upset and hung up the phone and hasn't really reached out to me since. I do feel kind of bad now though because they did provide me food and shelter growing up. Not the idiot. I wonder how they would have behaved growing up if your sisters had been further apart in age. Sounds like they were taking advantage of being able to do 2 in 1 in terms of activities etc. and then just gave up when they got to you. Selfish and lazy. And as others have said, don't quit school. Remember the old Reddit adage, don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Not the idiot, you have bad parents. You don't owe them anything for providing you food and shelter as a child. That is literally the job they voluntarily signed up for when they became parents and you are under no obligation to repay them for it. They neglected you emotionally and financially in favor of your older sisters and now they are trying to punish you for their failures. I'm sorry you had the misfortune of being born into such a bad family and I hope you are able to get away from them as quickly as possible. Not the idiot. Your mother doesn't deserve to complain, much less insist you quit school. Whether they see it or not, parents are capable of some hardcore favoritism and the damage is real and sometimes doesn't manifest until later in life. Food and shelter aren't enough. Parents need to be emotionally and mentally invested in their children, lest they want to die alone in a nursing home, let alone raise people who will always feel like they just aren't good enough.